And once we're done with practicing a couple of these queries, we'll move on to take a look at what a subquery is and how to use them. All right. Okay. First, so if this is our query based on the pubs database, by the way, let's try and write the command for this. We are asked to display a list of all the German authors along with their title IDs. That is the IDs of the books that they have written. All right. But then again, German authors who haven't authored any books should also be included in the list. How to write the command for that? Once again, we follow the same old approach. We go back to the pub schema and take a look at the tables we need to go to. From which table? Answer that question first. In order to show a list of all the German authors, along with the IDs of the titles that they have published. First, simply এটা tackle করি। Authors বের করার জন্য, in order to get a list of the authors, which table do we need to go to?
Author table.
That's right. If we go to the author table, we will author as well as the country, right? So in the author table, we have the author as well as the country. Remember that we need a list of German authors. Authorটা কোন দেশে এটা বের করার জন্য we need the country of the home country of the author. For that, we need to go to TBL author. So basically in the from clause, first we have the select clause, right? So let's write the from clause. In the from clause, we will go to TBL author. Next what? We also need to get a list of the IDs of the books that they have written, right? So তাদের বইগুলোর লিস্ট যদি চাই, where do we need to go to for that?
Title author.
Title author.
Title author, and then after that,
Title author table. So remember here, even though it's title ID, just the titles table, will that work? Will this work?
it does not have the author ID.
That's right. Titles table does not have any author ID. তাকে তো আমি জয়েন করতে পারবো না author টেবিলের সাথে। So আমার title author table লাগবে, right? Let's use aliases as well. Let's call this the A table and let's call this the TA table. And then the where clause. In the where clause, we place the join condition. এই দুটো টেবিলকে জয়েন করছি। ফ্রম ক্লজে দুটো টেবিল আছে মানে এই দুটো টেবিল জয়েন করা হবে। জয়েন করার জন্য কন্ডিশনটা দিতে হবে। So where clause first we will list the join condition for joining these two tables. In order to write the join condition, what do we need to take a look at? If there is any foreign key, primary key reference between title author and author. Is there any?
Author ID.
Okay, author ID, that's right. So a dot au underscore ID is equal ta dot au underscore ID. And what is it that we want? A list of the authors, as simple as that, right? So let's say we want the names of the authors as well as the IDs of the titles that they've written. All German authors, we list of all German authors, right? So we want the names. So au underscore f name, au underscore l name. That's how it's listed, right, in the schema. F name, l name. Right?
Yes.
Okay. And then finally, we will also get the title ID, title underscore ID. Right? But that's not all the query is asking for. The query is also asking for this part. German authors who haven't authored any books should also be included. Also, by the way, have we missed something in the where clause?
German.
Semicolon থাকবে. Very good in noticing that. That and another condition.
Country.
A dot country.
It has to be German. A dot country বলতে পারো, but then again, title author table does not have a country, does it? So we can just go with country is equal to Germany, as simple as that. But even this will not return the result of the query that we're looking for. Why?
Because we have to give outer join.
That's right. Why do we need an outer join?
to display the null values as well.
No, not because we need null values, not because of that, because we need those authors as well who haven't published or authored any books at all. We need those authors as well who haven't authored any books at all. And in getting those authors, we will get some null values for title ID, yes. But the key reason is that authors who do not have any books or who haven't authored any books must be included in here as well. এখানে কি যে অথর গুলো কোনো বই লিখেনি তাদের কোনো রেকর্ড কি এই কমান্ডটা রিটার্ন করবে? Will this command return records of those authors who haven't written any books? No. Why? Because of this joint condition. এই joint conditionটার কারণে এই জিনিসটা হবে না. We will only return records of those authors whose ID will be found in the title author table. Title author table এ যে AU ID পাওয়া যাবে না, ওই AU ID data return করা হবে না. So এই queryটা যা চাচ্ছে, this command will not be enough to return that. So if you were to write this command for this query, you'd get a 0 because the from clause simply wouldn't work here. So how would we have to change here? What would we have to do here, guys?
Left outer join.
That's right. So we'd have to do a left outer join. Left outer join করতে হবে. Okay, and everything else should remain the same, no?
Where will become on?
That's right. Very good. This will become on. And that's all then, right? Guys, is this what we were looking for?
Seems about right.
So right, then we're done here, right? This is the command that will return the result of the query that we're looking for, right? Guys?
Yeah, it seems so.
Everyone agrees?
Yes, ma'am.
Topu, Faiza,
Yes, ma'am.
Orpita, where are you guys? So everyone agrees that this is what we need, right? This should work. Nikki.
Ma'am, as lagna.
এখানে এই জায়গায় as দিতে পারো, but even without as, this will be taken as an
Ma'am,
alias. Space
and
দিয়ে-
এখানে where হবে?
That's right. You have to notice things like that as well. All right. So remember here we had an and, right, along with the on. On এর সাথে কি কোনো and দেয়া যাবে না? On is specifically used to place the join condition with the join syntax. যখন join syntax use করি, join condition এর জন্য আমরা on use করে থাকি. এর বাইরে কোনো কন্ডিশন আমি তো on দিয়ে দিতে পারবো না। ওটার জন্য আমার কি ইউজ করতে হবে? where use করতে হবে? All right? That's
It's hard to learn the raw SQL from MySQL because for me it worked.
Yeah, no, but you have to use raw SQL here. So keep that in mind. যে আমরা লেকচারে যে হচ্ছে গিয়ে এই জিনিসটা MySQL will come with some benefits. Bigger databases like Oracle and so will come with even more benefits, but you have to stick to raw SQL. All right? Anyone? Any questions? Okay, right then. So yeah, left outer join করতে হবে for this case. Okay, now let's try another query. Let's try out this query. We want to see a list of the names of each publisher and the names and titles published by them. Names of the titles published by them, right? So first, এটা উপর focus করি. List of the names of each publisher along with the names of the titles published by each of them. Focus on this. If we need the name of the publisher, which table do we need to go to? Once again, remember, we start by asking which table. Publisher name এর জন্য আমাদের কোন টেবিলে যেতে হবে?
Publisher table.
Publisher's table. That's right. So here, basically in the from clause, we will have to list TBL publisher, right? What else?
Titles table.
Also TBL titles. Why do we need the titles table? We need the
Title.
names of
Name
the
of
titles
the titles.
published by these publishers. And this will work. Why? Because remember, the titles table has a pub ID foreign key. Titles table মধ্যে pub ID একটা foreign key আছে. That's why it will work. All right? Titles table মধ্যে pub ID একটা foreign key আছে, which is referencing the pub ID primary key of the publisher table. So now then, the join condition. What will be our join condition?
P dot pub ID or PBL titles dot
Let's
pub
just
ID.
first use the aliases. All right, alias use করি ঠিক আছে so t dot
Pub ID equals
Pub.
P dot pub ID.
id is equal t dot pub id. That's right. And from there we want to see all the names of the publishers, so pub underscore name, and the names of the books as well, so title underscore name, right? Yeah. However, the
Join
next
করা
part,
লাগবে না?
we are joining the two tables. No? We are joining the two tables here.
Haven't published anything, so
Haven't published.
so right outer join.
That part is the tricky part here, all right? Publishers who haven't published any titles should also be included in the list. যে পাবলিশার গুলো কোনো বই পাবলিশই করেনি তাদেরকেও লিস্টের মধ্যে রাখতে হবে. Will those publishers be included in this command, in the result of this command?
No.
No, miss.
No.
No.
Publishers who haven't published any books will not be included in the result of this command because of this joint condition. Because a condition বলছে যে only those publishers whose records will be found in the titles table, only those publishers যাদের রেকর্ড titles table এ পাওয়া যাবে তাদের ডেটা রিটার্ন করা হবে. So publishers who haven't published anything will not be included in this list. If we want to do this, then we'd have to do an outer join. What specific type of outer join will we have to do here?
Right outer join.
Right, Albert.
That's right. Right outer join. Because আমরা publisher-এর সব information চাচ্ছি, ঠিক আছে? Publishers who haven't published anything, we want them included as well. So right outer join. As simple as that. Right? And anything else?
Here, full outer join will also work, right? Because title cannot have the publisher name.
Only in this
as-
case. But
Yeah.
you must use the right outer join because you don't know what's there in the data. টেবিলের ডেটাতে কি আছে এটা তো আমরা জানি না. এমন তো না যে একটা টাইটেলের হচ্ছে গিয়ে পাবলিশার থাকতেই হবে. হতেই পারে যে পাব আইডি নাল. মেবি ডাটাবেস এটা অ্যাকচুয়ালি নেই, বাট থাকতেই তো পারে. তোমরা কি ডাটাবেস দেখে অ্যাকচুয়াল টেবলস, ডেটা টেবল গুলো মানে what do we call them, বেস টেবল গুলো দেখে কি কমান্ডটা লিখবা নাকি জাস্ট স্কিমাটাকে দেখে কমান্ডটা লিখবা? স্কিমা দেখে কমান্ড লিখবা. Only by looking at the schema, and only by looking at the schema we don't know if pub underscore id, some value for pub underscore id will be null in the titles table. So that's why if you were to do full outer join here, that would actually be wrong, because just by looking at the schema, শুধুমাত্র schema দেখে আমাদের বুঝার উপায় নেই. So শাফায়েতের কোয়েশ্চেন হচ্ছে কি এখানে ফুল আউটার জয়েন তো কাজ করা উচিত, because titles table, in the titles table every single title will have a publisher. All right, that's why there will be no titles which hasn't been published by any publisher. Common sense apply করলে অথবা database এর actual base tables গুলো দেখলে, that's what it tells us. But if you look at the schema, does it specifically say anywhere that pub id cannot be null? No, it doesn't.
No.
So you have to write the command by looking at the schema. A schema দেখে what do we know is the foolproof technique. Foolproof কোনটা? Right outer join. Right outer join is the foolproof technique here. Full outer join, just by looking at the schema, full outer join might work, might not work. We don't know that. Right outer join we know for sure will work here. All right. So the answer is to use right outer join here. But once again, remember, right outer join, left outer join depends on the placement of the table. Here we are performing right outer join because to the right of right outer join is the publisher table, and we want everything from the publisher table. Okay, that's why. And also, the where clause will change into what?
Nothing. Oh, it will become on.
Right. It will become on. And also, a semicolon missing. Don't ever forget the semicolon, right? It must be there. Semicolon সবসময় থাকতে হবে। ঠিক আছে? You must end the command with a semicolon. এটা ছাড়া you will lose marks, even though your query is correct. Okay, outer joins, pretty much straightforward. Let's try something a lot trickier. We want to display store-wise number of employees of Bangladeshi stores. খুব simple দেখতে একটা query. Command, a lot more complex. Store-wise number of employees. That is প্রত্যেকটা স্টোরে কতগুলো করে এমপ্লয়ি আলাদা আলাদা করে দেখতে চাচ্ছি। Store-wise number of employees মানে কি? Number of employees for each store. Whenever we use the term for each, what does that mean, guys?
Group by.
Group by. That's right. Store-wise number of employees চাচ্ছি। ঠিক আছে? So for each store, the number of employees in each store. That's what it means by store-wise number of employees, right? For Bangladeshi stores. ওটা না হয় পরে হ্যান্ডেল করলাম। But store-wise number of employees এর জন্য আমার কি লাগবে? First আমি দেখি। Once again, first question to answer, which table to go to? প্রত্যেকটা স্টোরে number of employees এর count লাগবে। Which tables to go to? Where will we find the employee information?
Employee
table.
Employee table. And the stores that they work for, where will we find that information?
Store table.
store table.
Really? The store that they work for. If you want only the store ID.
Employee table.
Also
Employee
from the employee table.
That's right. Only store ID কিন্তু employee table already আছে. Employee table already contains the store ID, right? Only store ID is present in employee table already. So একজন employee কোন store কাজ করে? That is what is the store ID of the store that they work in? We'll find that already in the employee table. But we'll still have to go to the store table. Why is that? Why do we still need to go to the to the store table?
For Bangladeshi
Bangladeshi store.
Exactly. Bangladeshi store. তার মানে কি? The store that is located in Bangladesh. Store কোন কান্ট্রিতে আছে এটা তো আমার জানতে হলে আমার স্টোর টেবিলে যেতে হবে। We have to go to the store table to find out, to figure out which country the store belongs to. Right? So that's why we actually ultimately need to go to the store table. Alright? শুধুমাত্র যদি স্টোর আইডি রাখতো তাহলে আমাদের এমপ্লয়ি টেবিল would have been enough. But যেহেতু আমাদের বাংলাদেশি স্টোর লাগবে, so country লাগবে. Country of the store, we need to go to the store table. So from here, we know that we need which tables once again, guys? The employee table and the store table. So এখানে গিয়ে আমি লিখে দিতে পারি। So from employee, TBL employee, তাই না? TBL employee and TBL store. Yes. Okay, that's how it's written, right? Yeah. TBL employee, TBL store hand. Yes. Okay. Next one. Next, we need to figure out the joint condition. Joint condition এর জন্য আমাকে কি দেখতে হবে? Foreign কি primary কি reference আছে কিনা? That is, এই দুটা টেবিলের মধ্যে কোনো common domain আছে কিনা? Let's see. Is there anything common between the two?
store ID.
Store ID. Store ID, if you see employee table has a store ID and store table also has a store ID. So that's the common domain, all right? এইটাকে আমরা use করব. So in the joint condition, when we write the joint condition, we'll use specifically that, where E dot store ID is equal to S dot store ID. Okay. So join হয়ে গেল. But are we done here? No.
Count.
Store-wise number of employees, all right? Store-wise, প্রত্যেকটা স্টোরে কতগুলো এমপ্লয়ি আছে এটা যদি জানতে চাই তাহলে আমার কি করতে হবে? Yeah, go ahead.
So select first at least the store ID or the name.
Okay. So you're going with select first, sure. But select actually comes later. Select is select executed before group by or after group by, guys?
Before group by.
Select is executed before group by. Are you sure?
Okay, so group by store ID.
After group by.
Store ID.
Select is executed after group by. All right. Select
Yes,
is executed after group by. তোমরা যদি আগে select লিখো, there's nothing wrong with that as long as you can do it right. All right. তুমি select আগে লিখেছো না group আগে লিখেছো এটা তো আমার বুঝার কোনো উপায় নেই। তোমরা চাইলে লিখতে পারো। There's nothing wrong with that. আমি recommend করব যে order of execution টা আছে ওই অর্ডারটা ফলো করা। তাহলে একটু ইজি হয় thought processটা। যে এমপ্লয়ি টেবিল স্টোর টেবিল আমি জয়েন করলাম। এখন আমার স্টোর ওয়াইজ নাম্বার অফ এমপ্লয়িজ বের করার জন্য কি করতে হবে এটা আমাদেরকে চিন্তা করতে হবে, ঠিক আছে? The moment we see store wise number of employees, what does that mean? The number of employees in each store যখনই for each in each এই ধরনের কথাগুলো আসে সাথে সাথে আমাদেরকে বুঝে নিতে হবে we have to use group by what? The moment we realize that it's a group by what? এটা first figure out করতে হবে group by what? Group by the foreign key that's present in employee table. Group by the foreign key for store table that is present in the employee table. As simple as that. Employee table এ store table এ যে foreign key টা আছে ওটা দিয়ে আমরা group by টা করব. So group by what guys? Store underscore ID.
Store ID.
That's right. So store ID দিয়ে group by করলে কি হবে এখানে? Store ID দিয়ে group by যদি করি আমরা তাহলে all the rows that have the same store ID, all the rows that have the same store ID value will be put together into the same group, will be grouped together. একসাথে group করা হবে, will be grouped together, all the rows with the same store ID. And once we do that, what can we do next? We can
Count.
apply the count function. Very good. Then we can do count, right? Then we can apply the count function. Count what? Count you can do all, or count you can do employee. Just to, let's say, how do they write employee ID here? Emp underscore ID, right? So emp underscore ID is the right. Yes, let's say just to make it more readable. Just to clarify the fact that we are counting the number of employees. It clarify করার জন্য. But instead of that, if you were to write star, it would do the same thing. একই জিনিসই করবে। So simply কি করবে? এই পুরা join table এ once it's join করার পরে হচ্ছে গিয়ে যে রো গুলোতে স্টোর আইডি ভ্যালু সেম ওই রো গুলোকে একসাথে করে একটা গ্রুপ করবে, এভাবে করে মাল্টিপল গ্রুপস ক্রিয়েট করবে। এরপরে প্রত্যেকটা গ্রুপে আলাদা আলাদা করে প্রত্যেকটা গ্রুপে গিয়ে দেখবে কতগুলো রো আছে, এক একটা গ্রুপে কতগুলো রো আছে। That's what count will do, whether you write asterisk here or whether you write emp id here, it will do the same thing. Just to make it more readable, we do emp underscore id. Sorry. Underscore ID, just to make it more readable. All right. And also we'll list the store ID here as well. Remember.
Yes, there will be a semicolon after store ID.
Yes, there will be a semicolon after store ID. That's right. Okay. And when we do store ID, আমরা কিভাবে কি store ID রেখে দিতে পারবো? Can we leave it like that?
No, since
No.
it's ambiguous.
E dot
That's
store
right.
ID.
Since it's ambiguous, we have to do either e dot store ID or s dot store ID, whichever. So do e dot. That's fine. That's the command. It would have been fine if you were to do this as well. E dot store ID জায়গায় যদি store name ও দিতাম, that would have been fine. But raw SQL actually, you should do something like this. Whatever you list in the group by should be there in the select clause as well by raw SQL. তোমাদের DBMS এ গিয়ে যদি শুধুমাত্র এই জিনিসটা লিখো, that will work as well, right? Select count simply এটা দিলেও it will work. But raw SQL actually, from what I know, last version এ update করেছে কিনা I'm not sure, but yeah, raw SQL standard যদি follow করে SQL standard যদি তাহলে হচ্ছে কি whatever you place in the group by clause should be there in the select clause as well. Okay.
Ma'am, just letting you know, I think in the actual database, there's no such thing as store ID in the employee
Okay.
table.
In the employee table, there is no such thing as store ID. All right. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so in that case, you cannot execute this command at all. তোমাদের যে pubs db তে actually এই command execute করতে পারবা না if employee table indeed does not have a store id foreign key. So we'll have to take a look at that and do something about it later on. Or what you guys can do if you want to try this out, তোমরা নিজেরাও try করতে পারো. Simply employee table এ store id নামের একটা foreign key add করো. First store id attribute add করতে হবে, তারপর ওটার উপর একটা foreign key constraint add করতে হবে, just how we have learned in DDL. SQL for the purpose of DDL, data definition language, যেভাবে শিখেছি ওই যে alter table যেটা alter table command যেটা ওটা ইউজ করে ফার্স্টে আমাদেরকে store id একটা attribute add করতে হবে in the employee table, exactly the same as the store id attribute of the store table, and then ওটার উপরে foreign key constraint apply করতে হবে. Once you do that, insert some store id values there, and then you can execute this command. You can try it out on your own as well. All right. Okay. All right. So that's the command basically. Yeah. Any questions? Any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
No,
guys,
ma'am.
if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask now, because from the next session onwards, pop quizzes, not pop quizzes. Pop quizzes are gonna be a possibility, all right? So যে কোনো একটা সেশন, এটা নেক্সট সেশন হতে পারে, তারপর সেশন হতে পারে, আমি একটা পপ কুইজ নিতে পারি, ছোট্ট একটা পপ কুইজ নিতে পারি, ঠিক আছে? এটা নেক্সট সেশন, তারপরের সেশন আর মাল্টিপল সেশনসে হতে পারে। পপ কুইজ নিব, কিন্তু দ্যাট ইজ আনঅ্যানাউন্সড। ক্লাসের যে কোনো একটা পয়েন্টে হুট করে আমি একটা কুইজ নিব, অ্যান্ড ওই কুইজে হচ্ছে গিয়ে however you perform, that will contribute towards bonus, all right? Whatever score you get, if you need some bonus or anything like that, a pop quiz performance basis আমি কিছু বোনাস অ্যাড করতে পারি, ঠিক আছে? So if you have any questions, ask away, because once we move on, we are not going to go back. Okay, now let's try and write the command for this query. Then we want to see a list of the names of the publishing houses that have published more than 100 books. The publishing houses that have published more than 100 books. Names of publishing houses. Once again, first question we need to answer is which table? Names of publishing houses. Where will we get that? Names of publishing houses.
Publisher table.
Publisher.
In the publisher table. Very good. So from TBL publisher, right? Then what? That have published more than 100 books. In order to get this, we actually need the books published by the publisher. Publisherরা কি কি বই পাবলিশ করেছে, or in other words কি কি টাইটেল পাবলিশ করেছে, এটা কোথায় পাবো?
Title table.
Titles table. Very good. In the titles table, notice that there is a pub id foreign key, which means that the books published by this publisher will find that in the titles table. So from TBL publisher and then TBL titles. Okay. So the publisher table, the titles table, will join these two. Based on what join condition? What is the join condition? Depends on if there is any foreign key primary key reference between publisher table and the title table, if there is any common domain or not. Maruf Rahman, can you hear me? Maruf? Krishanu Kobir, can you hear me? Brilliant. Qazi Abdullah Fuad.
Yes, miss.
Okay. So Fuad, help us along, please. Tell us, এখন আমাদের join condition এ কোন অ্যাট্রিবিউটের বেসিসে আমরা জয়েন কন্ডিশনটা বানাবো, কোন অ্যাট্রিবিউটের বেসিসে জয়েন কন্ডিশনটা বানাবো, প্লেস করব?
Based on pub ID.
Pub ID. Why is that?
Because it's like we have the foreign key in the titles table is working as a foreign key.
Referencing who?
The publisher table.
Pub ID primary key of publisher table. Very good, that's right. So যখনই আমরা জয়েন কন্ডিশন বানাবো, জয়েন কন্ডিশন বানাতে গিয়ে আমরা সবসময় দেখব যে কমন কি আছে, দুটা টেবিলের মধ্যে কোন জিনিসটা কমন, পাবলিশার টাইটেলস এর মধ্যে কোন জিনিসটা কমন. Pub ID is common. Pub ID in titles is a foreign key referencing the pub ID in the publisher table, like Fuad suggested. All right. So here in the join condition, that's what we will do. So let's use aliases once again. Publisher key, p key, title scale, t key, p dot pub id equals t dot pub id. Okay, that's our join condition. From plus gelo, join condition gelo. Fine. That's our join condition. Now next what? We need to check for those publishers who have published more than 100 books. More than 100 books publish করেছে কিনা এটার জন্য আমার কি করতে হবে? কাউন্ট করতে হবে কতগুলো বই পাবলিশ করেছে। The number of books published by each publisher, we have to count that. List of names of the publishing houses that have published more than 100 books. So প্রত্যেকটা পাবলিশার অ্যাকচুয়ালি কতগুলো বই পাবলিশ করেছে ফার্স্ট আমার এটা দেখতে হবে। প্রত্যেকটা পাবলিশার কতগুলো বই পাবলিশ করেছে এটা দেখতে হবে, and then whether that number is greater than 100 or not এটা চেক করতে হবে, তাই না? We need to show a list of the names of the publishing houses that have published more than 100 books. তার মানে কি? Each publishing house, how many books they have published, we have to first check that, how many books they have published and whether that number is greater than 100 or not. We have to check that. So what do we need to do for that? First, to check the number of books published by each publisher, what do we need to use?
Group by.
Group by.
Count
That's right.
and group by.
Group by use করব। The moment we know that we have to use group by, based on which attribute do we use group by?
Publisher name. Or
Publisher
pub ID.
name. Is that what we use for group by?
You can use pub ID as well.
Pub
Pub
ID.
ID. We use pub ID. Remember, publisher name, even though common sense tells us that publisher name should be unique, but we will go for foolproof options. যেটা foolproof, ঠিক আছে? Pub ID কোনো ভুল হওয়ার কোনো চান্স নেই। So pub ID, group by pub ID. We will go for the primary key, the unique identifier, that is. Common sense apply করে pub name ও unique হওয়া উচিত, but আমরা তো স্কিমা দেখছি, আমরা এত কিছু জানি না, টেবিলের মধ্যে কি কি ডেটা আছে এটাও জানি না, সো আমরা এমন কিছু ইউজ করব যেটাতে ভুল হওয়ার কোনো পসিবিলিটি নেই। Pub ID, which we know is the primary key, hence it's a unique identifier. So pub ID. And also we have to do this as well. Very good. p.pub ID করতে হবে, because pub ID is present in both publisher and title. So আমাকে বলে দিতে হবে which pub ID. Is it p.pub ID or is it p.pub ID? Whichever. Whether you use p here or p here doesn't matter. একই pub ID হবে, but এটা আমাদেরকে স্পেসিফাই করে দিতে হবে। Alright? Okay, so group by pub ID, fine. Now, the count of the total number of books published by the publisher has to be greater than 100. So এই যে একটা condition আছে, has to be more than 100. Is this a condition on overall all the rows or on the aggregate function? Which one? Aggregate result এর উপরে conditionটা নাকি overall সবগুলো row এর উপর result?
After group by.
So after group by. Why do we have to place the condition after group by? Because this condition is for the aggregate result. Aggregate যেটা function, aggregate function এর যে রেজাল্টটা ওটার উপরে এই conditionটা বসাতে হবে, greater than 100. That's why we have to place the condition after group by, and that's why we have to use having here. Remember that where is executed before group by. Where কিন্তু before group by এর আগে executed হয়. Having on the other hand is executed when? Before or after group by?
After
Group
After
by.
group by. So আমার যদি এমন কোনো কন্ডিশন থাকে যেটা গ্রুপ বাই এর পরে কন্ডিশনটা প্লেস করতে হবে, ওটার জন্য আমার হ্যাভিং ইউজ করতে হবে। এই কন্ডিশনটা গ্রুপ বাই এর পরেই প্লেস করতে হবে। কেন? মোর দেন 100 বুকস মানে কি? টোটাল নাম্বার অফ বুকস পাবলিশড বাই দ্য পাবলিশার হ্যাজ টু বি গ্রেটার দেন 100. সো টোটাল নাম্বার অফ বুকস লাগবে আগে আমার। টোটাল নাম্বার অফ বুকস এর জন্য আমার গ্রুপ বাই পাব আইডি করতে হবে। So this is a condition that has to be placed after we are done doing group by. Okay. And what is the condition? The condition is that the count has to be greater than 100. So the count, whichever it is counting, ভিতরে যে কোনো একটা garbage value দিলে হবে, so asterisk দিলেও হয়, so count has to be greater than 100. All right. Now to make it more readable, you can do this. the number of titles published has to be greater than 100. You can do count title ID. You can do that for sure, right? However, it doesn't matter. Count all should work as well. এখানেও কিন্তু by the way, p বসাও নাকি t বসাও it doesn't matter because ultimately দোনোটাই সেম। কন্ডিশন কি বলছে যে দোনোটা তো একই হতেই হবে, সো দোনোটা সেম হবে, বাট যে কোনো একটা বসাতে হবে, otherwise the database will be confused as to which one. Having count greater than 100. And finally, what will be returned in the select clause? What will we choose in the select clause?
Pub name and count stored.
First of all, count তো obviously থাকবে ওখানে, তাই না? Count will obviously be there. And what else?
Pub name.
Pub name. A list of the names of the publishing houses. Pub underscore name. Pub name will be there. And also the count, just so we see that the number of books published by these publishers is actually greater than 100. এই জিনিসটা দেখার জন্য, ঠিক আছে? এটা রাখতে পারি। Okay? Actually in this query, technically আমরা যদি দেখি কোয়েরিটা কিন্তু কাউন্টের কথা জিজ্ঞেসই করছে না, আমরা কিন্তু actually we can leave this out. এই জিনিসটা কিন্তু এখান থেকে বাদও দেওয়া যায় because they are only looking for the names of the publishing houses that have published more than 100 books. That have published more than 100 books, এটা তো আমি অলরেডি এখানে চেক করছি, তো সিলেক্ট এটা রাখাটা নেসেসারি কিছু না, but if you do place it there, nothing wrong with that. Okay, yeah, so that's the command that you want to look for. All right, okay, now then let's take a look at subqueries. We'll just go through the introductory ideas, all right, not something too complex. No need to worry about too many complex concepts for now when we look at subqueries. So the final leg of advanced SQL, we have the final leg of advanced SQL, which is subqueries. So subqueries, the idea of a subquery is very similar to, let's say, nested loops, all right? You can nesting এর আইডিয়াটা যেটা যে a query within a query basically, let's say. So we call it the query that's going to be within the parenthesis inside another query, we call that the inner query, all right? And the one that's going to be outside of the parenthesis, we call that the outer query. And the inner query, you can place, usually it's placed with the where clause or the having clause. That is, wherever you place a condition, যেখানে একটা condition থাকবে, where clause a condition থাকে অথবা having clause a condition থাকে, remember. So inner queries are placed with the where clause or the having clause. In some cases, inner queries can also be placed in the from clause, examples of which you have already seen. We have placed inner queries in the from clause in the past. Remember? We saw an example of using a derived table. Do you guys remember the derived table? How did we create the derived table?
We got a table and then gave it a alias.
That's right. That was our derived table. And how did we create that derived table? By placing an inner query in the from clause, right? Okay. And so we'll start with the idea of a subquery, and then we'll move on to more complex subqueries, that is correlated subquery. We won't look at correlated subquery today, we won't have the time, but basic subquery or the idea of a subquery, we can take a look at that by comparing with the join syntax, all right? Join command আমরা যেভাবে execute করেছি so far using whether a where clause or whether the inner join, whichever that is, we'll see how to execute that inner join use করে অথবা where clause use করে, যেটাই use করি, how to do the same thing using a subquery, we'll see that. So basically this query, the result of this query can be returned using an inner join or the where clause, right? But the same thing can also be done using subquery. First, আমরা subquery কিভাবে কাজ করে এটা বুঝবো using that, all right? So the name and address of the customer who placed this specific order. Better way of writing that, obviously, is the inner join. Inner join, always better practice. Inner join is always better practice because it's more readable. We know that this is where the join is going on. We are joining the customer table with the order table because we need the name and address of the customer. Name and address of the customer, we'll find that in the customer table. We also need that only for the one who has placed the order number 1008. For that, we need to go to the order table. So the customer table needs to be joined with the order table. Fine. What আমি inner join এর মধ্যে দিলাম. What is the join condition? We place that with the on clause. On clause এর মধ্যে, what is the join condition? Once again, we'll look at common values that are possibly there between customer and order. Customer order এর মধ্যে একটাই common domain আছে, which is the customer ID. একটাই common column আছে, customer ID. So we'll use the customer ID. That's my join condition. And then also, the data has to be returned only for order number 1008. So in the where clause, place any other conditions that you may have. Order ID is equal to 1008. And then return these things. এটা তো inner join use করে, we know how that works. Using the where clause, this is how it works. Simply, the tables that we are joining, simply list them in the from clause separated by comma. And in the where clause, first you state the join condition, and then any other condition, you combine that with and দিয়ে ওটা আমি আরো add করে দিলাম, condition যদি আরো থাকে, ঠিক আছে? And then return whatever we are looking for, the name of the customer and the other details of the customer, address, city, state, postal code, whatever, blah, blah, blah. All right, do that. Done. This same thing can be done using a subquery. How does that work? So what we'll do is, first, we'll go to the order table where order ID is equal to 1008. So প্রথমে একটা inner query যেটা বলছি, first যে queryটা execute হবে, প্রথম যে queryটা executed হবে, that is the inner query. The first query that will be executed in a subquery is the inner query. So in the inner query, we'll first go to the order table, simply look for the record or the records where order ID is equal to 1008. And from there, we will fetch the customer ID. For order ID 1008, what is the customer ID? We'll just get that. So the inner query will only return the customer ID of the customer who placed order ID 1008. Then we'll go to in the outer query, we'll go to the customer table and look for the customer ID whose customer ID matches with the customer ID that we got from the inner query. Inner query থেকে যে customer ID টা পেলাম, ওই customer ID টা আমি outer query তে search করব inside the customer ID column. Whenever we find a match, return the rest of the data placed in the select clause. So let's look at the actual command. So see here, right at the bottom, the query within the parentheses, that is our inner query. What's going on in the inner query? Simply order table এ যাচ্ছে from order table. So simply it's going to the order table, looking for the row or the rows where order ID is equal to 1008, simply doing that. And then simply selecting the customer ID there. Getting the customer ID for that row. Simply order table এ যাবে, যেই রোতে order ID is equal to 1008, ওই রোতে গিয়ে দেখবে customer ID value কতটুকু, and then customer ID টা নিয়ে আসবে. That is going to be the result of the inner query. Inner query first executed হবে. Remember, the inner query is executed first. So inner query একটা result return করবে. Inner query কোন result return করবে? Simply এই queryটা result return করবে, ঠিক আছে? If we execute this query, whatever result we get, the inner query will return that result. Sure, so I can know because I don't know if order ID is in. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, customer ID 12. This query, the inner query returns customer ID 12. So এখানে এসে যে জিনিসটা হবে, এই পুরা inner queryটা replaced হবে রেজাল্টটা দিয়ে। Simply কি হবে, এই জায়গায় থাকবে 12. Right? So simply, then the outer query will be executed. So from the customer table, it will look for that row where the customer ID is equal to 12. And from that row, it will return these values. As simple as that. Make sense, guys? How it works? Yes.
Which one would you say is faster or more efficient?
Definitely the join syntax better than subquery. Subquery ক্ষেত্রে কি হচ্ছে, স্পেশালি এই জিনিসটা এখানে এতটুকু অবভিয়াস নাও হতে পারে, পরে গিয়ে আরো অবভিয়াস হবে। সাবকোয়েরি ক্ষেত্রে কি হচ্ছে, সাবকোয়েরি ক্ষেত্রে ফার্স্ট তুমি একটা সার্চ করছো থ্রু the order table. In the worst case scenario, you're going through all n number of rows in the order table.
Yeah.
ঠিক আছে? Then n computations করার পরে ওটা আবার আমি সার্চ করছি কোথায়, কাস্টমার টেবিল, তো আবার কাস্টমার টেবিলে এটা করতে হচ্ছে, ঠিক আছে। সো এটা তবুও আচ্ছা, ঠিক আছে, 2n গেল। কোরিলেটেড সাবকোয়েরিতে গিয়ে দেখবা আরো বেশি কমপ্লেক্স হয়ে যায়, ওখানে গিয়ে n স্কোয়ার হয়ে যাবে, ঠিক আছে। সো ডেফিনেটলি জয়েন সিনট্যাক্স ইজ বেটার। সাবকোয়েরি
So
অনেকের কাছে
joining,
বুঝতে সহজ হয়, বাট জয়েন ইজ বেটার। ইয়া, বলো।
so join is less than
Faster.
2n.
In case of join, what happens is that you do the search and join it once, তাই না? তুমি তো একবার সার্চ করে যে কাস্টমার আইডি অনুযায়ী সার্চ করে তুমি টেবিল দুটোটাকে জয়েন করে ফেলছো, তাই না? So and then whatever you need to return in the select clause, you return that. In case of subquery যেটা হয় যে তোমার where clause এ যেগুলো আছে, then inner query তে যেগুলো আছে ওগুলোর জন্য তো তোমার সার্চ করতে হচ্ছে, and then select এর জন্য তোমার কিন্তু আবার সার্চ করতে হচ্ছে, ঠিক আছে। In case of join, it's easier. This will be more obvious. In case of simpler subqueries such as these, the difference is not too obvious. But যখন আমরা correlated subquery তে যাব, যখন হচ্ছে গিয়ে ওই for loop nested হলে যেটা হয় ওই জিনিসটা দেখব, তখন এটা আরো obvious হবে। nested for loop এর ক্ষেত্রে কি হয়, n স্কয়ার হয়ে যায় না?
Yes.
হ্যাঁ, ওরকমই হবে। কোরিলেটেড সাবকোয়েরির ক্ষেত্রেও আইডিয়াটা এরকমই, যখন আমরা মানে ওই ধরনের কমপ্লেক্স সাবকোয়েরি হচ্ছে কি এক্সিকিউট করব। এই ধরনের সিম্পলার সাবকোয়েরির ক্ষেত্রে the difference is not too obvious, but still join is better. Subquery থেকে by default, if you talk about speed, in most cases join is better. But also at the same time, I should point out that in the exam, unless it is specifically mentioned that you must use join use করতে হবে, এটা যদি মেনশন করে দেয়া না থাকে তাহলে তোমরা চাইলে সাবকোয়েরি ইউজ করতে পারো, নো ইস্যুস দেয়ার। ইউ ক্যান ইউজ সাবকোয়েরি, ফিল ফ্রি টু ইউজ দ্যাট, ইটস ফাইন। বিকজ আলটিমেটলি আমাদের কোয়েরি অপটিমাইজার বেস্ট ওয়ে টু এক্সিকিউট দ্য কোয়েরি ওভাবে ট্রান্সফর্ম করেই নেয়। সো ইউ ক্যান ডু দ্যাট। যদি কোয়েরিতে বলে দেয়া থাকে যে ইউ মাস্ট ইউজ দ্য জয়েন্ট সিনট্যাক্স অফ দ্য জয়েন্ট কমান্ড, ইন দ্যাট কেস তোমার হচ্ছে কি ইনার জয়েন বা এই ধরনের কিছু একটা ইউজ করতেই হবে, ঠিক আছে। ইনার জয়েন, নট ইভেন জাস্ট দ্য ওয়্যার ক্লজ, ইনার জয়েন ইউজ করতে হবে। বাট বলে না দেয়া থাকলে তুমি সিম্পলি ওয়্যার ক্লজ ইউজ করো, where clause use করে join করো নাকি subquery use করো, it's up to you, right?
So joining is basically always preferred.
Yes, join is always more preferred, but in some cases you will see that join use করে আসলে রেজাল্টটা বের করা পসিবলই না, ওইসব ক্ষেত্রে তো subquery use করতেই হবে। বাট যদি join use করে রেজাল্ট বের করা পসিবল হয়, but then join definitely preferred. Yeah,
Got it. Thanks.
বাট আবার বলে দিলাম এক্সামে কিন্তু কোনো discrepancy নাই, subquery same marks, join ও same marks, as long as it's correct, all right, and as long as it is not specified in the query that you must use join. Okay, anyway, so that's how subquery works. Okay, so inner query টা আগে executed হবে, then inner query রেজাল্টের বেসিসে outer query executed হবে। so inner query দিয়ে আমি হচ্ছে গিয়ে ফার্স্টে fetch করে নিলাম which customer id, and then outer query দিয়ে দিলাম। now what if এটা তো পসিবল না, এই স্পেসিফিক কেসে এটা পসিবল না, সো দ্যাটস ওয়াই ইট ওয়ার্কস। হোয়াট ইফ আমরা এমন একটা ক্লায়েন্টের সাথে কাজ করছি যারা বলছে যে একটা অর্ডার মাল্টিপল কাস্টমার মিলে প্লেস করতে পারে, দ্যাট ইজ গ্রুপ অর্ডার করা যায়, কোলাবোরেটেড অর্ডার গ্রুপ অর্ডার করা যায়। যদি গ্রুপ অর্ডার করা যায়, দ্যাট ইজ মাল্টিপল কাস্টমার্স টুগেদার ক্যান প্লেস আ সিঙ্গল অর্ডার, ইন দ্যাট কেস উইল ইট ওয়ার্ক?
No.
Why not? Why will it not work? Will the inner query not work? The inner query will work actually. প্রবলেমটা কোথায় হবে বলো? ইনার কোয়েরি তো কোনো ঝামেলা দিবে না। যদি মাল্টিপল কাস্টমার থাকে অর্ডার টেবিলে ফর দিস অর্ডার আইডি, দেয়ার মাল্টিপল কাস্টমার, সে কি করবে? সিম্পলি মাল্টিপল কাস্টমারের লিস্ট রিটার্ন করবে। তাহলে প্রবলেমটা কোথায় হবে? বলো। Where will we face the problem? Will this work?
This will face problem in the where customer ID.
Equals to
Yes, this one.
this one. Equals a problem হবে।
I will have multiple values.
Exactly. For multiple values, can we use equals? No. In that case, what will we have to use?
In.
In. Very good. So in that case, we would have to use in. Okay. That's safer. If by any chance the result of the subquery or the inner query If the result of the inner query is a list of values instead of a single value, in that case in is definitely safer. Alright, so সবসময় মাথায় রাখবা যে in হচ্ছে গিয়ে equals থেকে safer in case of subqueries. Alright, right then, let's end the session here. We'll start the session, we'll pick it up from here now that you have a brief idea, a brief understanding of subquery. And the next session will start with simpler subqueries, how simple subqueries work, and then we'll move into correlated subqueries. All right. Also, before I end this session, I would like to take a class for the class that we've missed on Thursday. All right. So let's do that Tuesday, that is tomorrow, at night time, since all of you guys might have classes until 6:30. I cannot do that then. So we'll have a class, let's say, starting from 7 p.m. if that's okay with everyone, to 9 p.m. All right.
Miss,
I think some
Miss,
students
আমাদের
have-
ক্লাস হচ্ছে
কয়টা পর্যন্ত ক্লাস আছে?
মিস 9:30
9:30. How on earth do you have classes till 9:30?
Miss,
মিস
this is
এটা এমএসসি দের সাথে মাস্টার্স স্টুডেন্টদের সাথে ক্লাস
Oh, acha, acha,
the
acha.
major
Right,
courses.
right, right. Fine. Okay, no problem. In that case, how about we do Wednesday? Wednesday, do you have classes as well until 9:30?
yes, Miss. Similarly, Miss.
Ah, okay. Do you guys have any classes this Thursday then?
No, ma'am.
নো
No,
ম্যাম
Miss.
Okay, Thursday তাহলে daytime it should be fine for you guys. Alright, তাহলে আমি একটা tentative schedule post করে দিব Thursday দিনের বেলা. Alright, so make sure you keep an eye out for that, and we'll have the class on Thursday. Okay, we'll have a 2-hour or 3-hour class in Thursday, and we'll end SQL with that class. So by this week we should be done with SQL, and in this weekend you must work on your SQL queries for your project. That means before this weekend, এই weekend শুরু হওয়ার আগেই তোমাদের হচ্ছে কি সবগুলো ডাটাবেস ক্রিয়েট করে পপুলেট করে ফেলা উচিত, যাতে তোমরা SQL কোয়েরি নিয়ে কাজ করা শুরু করতে পারো, because by this Thursday we will be done with SQL. Yes, any questions?
Is there all there is, like the subquery and then nothing else?
Yes, there is a lot more left. Correlated subquery, we haven't even looked at correlated subqueries yet.
That's different.
That's different. The way it works is different. Yes.
We had one question
Yes.
regarding our report. So,